Hi, I'm Betsy Lerwill. I'd like you to know a little bit about my life. I was born on July 20th, 1838 in East Down, Devonshire, England. I am the daughter of William Lerwill and Mary Rawley. Devon is located in southwest England. It is a primarily rural and agricultural area. We lived on a farm called Maddox Down. The farm itself has been in the Lerwill family since the 1500s, with the traditional stone barns. You can now go on vacation here. I was christened at 3 weeks old in the John the Baptist Church within the East Down parish. You can visit my church today, although it is in poor condition. I am third of 10 children. My siblings are John, William, Thomas, Grace, Susan, Lydia, and Mary. My parents used the name twice for John and William. Here is the 1841 England census in East Down when I was only 2. On a historic note, when I was young, Charles Dickens published The Christmas Carol. The 1851 census is very interesting. It states my father worked 60 acres on the Maddox Down farm. It says I was employed at home. It also shows Mary Matz, a 17-year-old girl, as our house servant. My parents were well-to-do, so I had many lovely dresses and a lot of nice linens. My profession was a spinster. I was the first member of my family to embrace the restored gospel and was baptized on the 9th of November, 1859 into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This statue commemorates Mormon emigration from the port of Liverpool. We want to gather to Zion across the Atlantic Ocean. I traveled with a very friendly acquaintance, James Tucker, and my aunt Anne Rawley and her husband of 5 days, Richard Fry. We left England in March of 1860. We traveled with financial assistance from the church's Perpetual Emigration Fund. We traveled on the ship the Underwriter. There were on board 594 souls of the saints. We were 5 weeks crossing the Atlantic. There was rough weather most of the time. We would sing and dance and have a good time. We arrived in New York on May 1st. Today you can visit Castle Clinton National Monument where we arrived. We stayed 2 days at Castle Garden, went from there to Albany, over Lake Ontario to Niagara Falls. The falls were a beautiful sight. Then through Detroit and Chicago. We sailed up the Missouri to Florence, Nebraska. We traveled by riverboat and by train across the country. While in Florence, Nebraska, James and I decided to marry in order to dispose of some of our luggage. Each of us was carrying a feather bed. Here is our marriage certificate. Our company consisted of the 4 of us. We purchased a wagon, 2 yoke of oxen and 2 cows. The oxen's names were Buck, Sam, Tip and Tyler. Our entire company consisted of 30 wagons, and our captain was J.D. Ross. Our journey to Utah took 11 weeks. Everyone was congenial and sociable. The entire trip was remarkable. We arrived in Salt Lake City on September 11th. We stayed in Salt Lake for 2 years. I was compelled to gather wild fruit and make our garments from the wool of the sheep. Our first herd of sheep was 5 in number, but we increased then until we had sufficient for our use. My husband was a shoemaker. He was paid in produce and other manufactured things, but we were entirely satisfied with our conditions. We got sealed in the Endowment House December 1st, 1860. The first year there the young girls often came to me asking to borrow one of my silk dresses for a party. We were in the 10th ward. My firstborn Mary arrived while we were in here. In 1862, our friends the Frys were living in Morgan, Utah. We decided to go there and help Richard with the irrigation system. Morgan City is located on both the east and west sides of the Weber River. The valley is sheltered so well by the mountain ranges. It has a short growing season and cool nights in the summer. We purchased land and obtained 40 acres of farmland in South Morgan. James commenced to till the soil and learned how to raise the things upon which to exist. Like good pioneers, we started to make a living in a new place with very few tools to work with. We followed general farming and raising livestock. Our first home was built of cartonwood logs. The roof of the house was of lumber covered with dirt. Our lights were made with a button and a rag set in a saucer of fat. This photo is from Morgan downtown later on. Just after my second child Lydia was born, I had a back-to-life experience. I became very sick and we believe my spirit left my body for 36 hours. I did sing twice while unconscious and declared that I was reluctant to return and enter my body to continue my mission. My burial clothes were being prepared. The elders blessed me that I would not die. Through the power of the priesthood I was restored to health and strength and lived and bore 10 more children. I had 12 children, 11 of them born in Morgan. 10 girls and 2 boys. Mary, Lydia, Susan, James, Susanna, Emily, Lucy, Annie, Lily, Rose, Jeanette, and William. Our entertainment consisted of dancing, mostly the quadrille being the most popular dance. Often our dances commenced at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I also joined the first Morgan choir in 1865, the same year Morgan built its first school. In 1869 the railroad was finished with a golden spike which joined the east and west coast. The railroad brought many tough characters into the valley. This was an economic boom for our community. In 1869, we were visited by grasshoppers in such vast numbers that the sun was hidden from our view. Entire crops were destroyed by them. One season, we obtained only 1 kettle of potatoes. In 1870, a general fast day for the entire state was called. Our prayers were answered and we were given help in many ways, but do we remember it today? James helped construct the first brick schoolhouse in Morgan, and have assisted in building all those since. This is our brick house. We lost Susanna in 1880. We were very sad. I was a marvelous manager. My family was always well dressed and well fed. The children each had their chores, such as, 1 girl did the milking and 1 feeding of the animals and chickens. Same with the housework. As 10 of her children were girls, the chores fell to them. The 1 older boy would go with father to farm. I was a fastidious housekeeper. I assigned the washing, ironing, and sewing to the older girls. The girls did the chores also, such as milking and feeding the animals. When the Morgan ZCMI was established, James took up his trade of shoemaker. He rented his business and responded to a call to mission to Great Britain. After working years paying off our debts and suffering loss from thieves, we finally sold all our store, also our interests in the Morgan ZCMI. Utah became a 45th state in 1896. We enjoyed doing temple work in the Logan and Salt Lake temples. We labored in the temple for years. I would make the grandkids' dresses. I made them out of a brown silk veil. I taught real domestic science and the art of homemaking. I died on the 20th of June, 1909 at the age of 70. I lived in Morgan for 47 years. Here is my obituary. I was respected by all who knew me as a loving mother and one to help the needy. The floral offerings at my funeral were numerous and beautiful. Here is my tombstone at South Morgan Cemetery. I am buried near my husband James Tucker. Come give me a visit. Here is a family reunion of my children after my death. I am Betsy Lerwill Tucker. I emigrated from England to Utah. I am a woman of strong character and great faith. I was a devoted wife, and a wonderful mother of 12. Thank you for listening to my story.